No pleasure. No problem. All
So
right.
the floor is yours, y'all.
Okay. Just before I share my screen, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Serge St. Ledger Jr., one of the senior directors in the Office of Family and Community Empowerment. I'm responsible for the community partnerships team, hence why I've been attending many of the borough service cabinet meetings throughout the city, all 5 boroughs, and hence what brings me here tonight. And I want to give my colleague a chance to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Rosado. I am the Senior Director for the Governance Team here in the Office of Family and Community Empowerment here in New York City Public Schools. So I'm a colleague of Surge's, but I also support the team of specialists that help support our community and citywide education councils. So they have, very similar roles. Um, in similar to community boards, in parallel, I should say, but for our school districts in New York City public schools. And so this is just an opportunity to talk about what their role is, how they support New York City public school students and families, and ways in which you as CB6 in Queens can support the outreach to get people to run for these positions that are 2-year terms, and also to be engaged and active in voting for these members also to join um, the citywide and community education councils. So
Okay.
thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. So that being said, I'm going to share my. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Can I just ask a question? Are you from the, and this is a silly question, but I'm going to ask, are you representing the Department of Education or the City of New York?
Department of Education.
Got it.
It's
Perfect.
but
Thank you.
well, let's be clear. It's a city agency for the city of New York. So
Okay.
New York
Yeah.
City Public Schools is an agency of the city of New York, like Department of Sanitation and Parks and so on and so forth. So yes, both and.
Okay, great. Understood. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and just want to make sure you see it. Just give me a thumbs up if you see, when you see it.
It hasn't come up yet.
It's still connecting.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, here we go. Okay, hold on.
ah,
There you go. How's that? See it?
Yep.
thank you. Good.
Yes, we
Perfect.
do see it.
Excellent. All right, so Rebecca will kick us off, and then I will pick up sort of in the midway through this presentation. So Rebecca, just let me know when to proceed. Next slide.
Yeah. Give me 1 second because
Hmm.
I'm just closing some windows that popped up. So this is our presentation for our 2025 Education Council election cycle for New York City Public Schools. And like I shared earlier, my name is Rebecca and I'm joined by Serge, and we're both part of the Office of Family and Community Empowerment here at New York City Public Schools. Next slide, Serge.
Here we go.
So this is sort of like an overview of the timeline for this campaign cycle. The terms are for 2 years. And so we have opened up the application period. The whole campaign cycle is divided into three phases that sort of overlap with each other. The first phase is learn. The second phase is run, which we are currently in right now. And the last phase is vote. And so this is sort of like a timeline of what's been happening since, frankly, before January. But as of January 13th, we opened the application period to receive applications for all seats in community and citywide education councils. And they will remain open until this Sunday, February 16th, for people to submit an application to run. Starting Wednesday, February 26th through Thursday, April 24th, we have our candidate forums. And the candidate forums are really opportunities for the candidates to meet and introduce themselves to potential electors, to the constituents that would be voting for them, and it's a great opportunity to hear from the candidates about what their platform is and why they're running, and what they intend to do within their position if elected to a community or citywide education council. And then Friday, April 25th through Tuesday, May 13th, the vote portion of the campaign cycle begins, where parents can vote from the comfort of their own home, having connected their profile, their New York City Schools account or NICSA account, to the profile of their children. Um, and that you can do with the support of a parent coordinator at a school. And we can talk about that later on in the presentation. And then in June, we announce the results and we have an orientation for all members so that they can begin their term July 1st. And it's a 2-year term. So they serve from July 1st of this year, 2025, through June 30th, 2027. Next slide. So a lot of these slides are a little wordy, but we'll share it with you, and then you can feel free to sort of peruse, and maybe if some other questions come to you after this presentation, you can feel free to reach out to us. So very quickly, what do community education councils do? Um, they work with the local superintendent to evaluate the educational programs that are implemented throughout the district for all schools, and they also discuss student progress on academic and social emotional goals for the district. um, they recommend improvements to school buildings, and they contribute to the hiring process of both the superintendents and new parent coordinators appointed to schools. And they also evaluate the superintendent on a yearly basis. And they also approve school zoning lines submitted by the superintendent, whether that's like transferring a school from one superintendency to another, or adding a school from one superintendency to another, from one district to another, I should say. Next slide. Then the community education councils also organize town halls with the chancellor. So throughout their 2-year term, they host one town hall with the chancellor, who comes to the school community and actually fields questions from both the council and community members on school related topics. They also hold hearings on budgets and other matters where public feedback is required. They also participate in joint public hearings and provide input on school closings and co-locations. They also host monthly public meetings, which is probably what you're most familiar with, for parents and community members to learn and share concerns. There's public comment portions to that work as well. And they support school communities by connecting parents to the resources in their local communities. That can also include better connections with community boards like yourselves, and then working with school leadership teams to understand what are the needs of each of their schools within their portfolio. Next slide. And so why are these elections important? We believe that the citywide and community education councils give parents the opportunity to make decisions that impact all children in their district and citywide. Even through the councils, parents are elected to represent their communities and work on improving public schools. And they play an important role in approving school zoning lines, recommending how school buildings should be used, and contribute to the hiring process for superintendents and parent coordinators, like I shared previously. Next slide. So, who gets to elect the members that serve on education councils? Voting is open to every New York City public school parent or caregiver. If you have a child in a New York City public school, the voting is open to you. And both parents of a student may vote in an election. parents use their New York City schools account, or what we call NICSA accounts, to cast their ballots. There's other good things that you can do using a NICSA account, like see your your child's transportation um, routes, if they have a thing mandated in their, if a child is eligible to take transportation, then you can see that information. You can also see grades information as uploaded by the school through the NICSA accounts, but then we also use it to cast ballots. Next slide. So very quickly, we have 36 education councils, 32 community education councils that represent districts 1 through 32. They generally represent schools K through 8, and they are tied to the geographic districts. So districts 1 through 6 in Manhattan, 7 through 12, the Bronx, um, 13 through 22 and 32, Brooklyn, districts 24 through 30, Queens, and then district 31, Staten Island. And then there's 4 citywide education councils. So there's the Citywide Education Council for high schools, for English language learners, for special education students, and for students in D75 programs. Next slide. And so for community education councils, which are the geographic districts that represent schools K through 8, the composition of each council should be 2 non-voting high school seniors per council. Those are selected by the superintendent, and 12 voting members per council. 10 that are elected through this elections process that is happening right now in this cycle, and then 2 that are appointed by the borough president. And of the 10 that are elected throughout this election cycle, there's 1 seat reserved for parents or caregivers of a student that is an English language learner. 1 seat is reserved for the parent or caregiver of a student that have an IEP, and 1 seat is also reserved for the parent or caregiver of a student in a D75 program. Next slide. And for the citywide councils, only CCHS, which is the Council for High Schools, has 13 voting members. CCEL, which is English language learners, CCSC, which is special education, and CCD75 all have 11 voting members, and you can see the breakdown here. Each of them also have 1 non-voting high school senior. And oftentimes we get the question, why is it a high school senior, not a junior, not a sophomore? It's written into state law. So if there's something that you want to change, I would suggest go lobby in Albany to change that. But for right now, it is a high school senior as mandated by state law. Next slide, please. So from here, I'm going to have Serge continue the presentation.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca. Excuse me. As Rebecca stated, this is sort of a very quick video, no sound, about how to navigate the NICSA system, the New York City schools account. And we recommend that every single parent who has a child in New York City schools have a NICSA account for the reasons mentioned earlier, but most importantly, as it relates to the election. Those who are interested in running must have a NICSA account, and those who will be voting must also have a NICSA account, right? So it's very important that every single parent in the system has a NICSA account. Okay, so as far as eligibility is concerned, this is student driven, as was mentioned before. So I'm going to use 2 examples here. The first example is Nia, who has a 4th grader with an IEP in District 24. And Nia also has a son who's a 9th grader in a Bronx high school. So if this parent is interested in running, this parent can rank the CECs that would touch their child. For example, in this particular case, because the 4th grade daughter also has an IEP, this parent can run for CEC 24, can also run for, meaning rank, meaning run for District 24, citywide councils for special education, and because she has a student in high school, citywide council for high schools, right? But as far as running, you can only be voted onto one of those councils. Obviously, you can't sit on more than one, but you can rank the ones in which you would like to sit on depending on the votes that are cast. As it relates to voting, this parent can vote in all three of those elections. So she can vote in District 24, she can vote in citywide high school, and also vote for citywide special education, because these are the councils that her children touch. The second example is Pablo, who has a seventh grader in District 14, and who is also an English language learner. So this particular parent can rank to run for either District 14 or the citywide English language learner council, and he can vote in both. He can vote in CEC 14 and the CCEL council as well. Okay. So again, just to drive the point home, this is student driven. So you may live in District 23, or let's stay in Queens. You may live in District 25, but your child goes to school in District 24. Your vote or where you can run is where your child resides, where they go to school, not necessarily where you live. Just want to make that point. Okay. All right. So this was last year's numbers as related to participation, meaning people who voted. As you can tell, well, maybe you can't tell that this is a sort of convoluted graph, but the turnout, in a word, was dismal, right? Throughout the city, it was at high as 3% on average across the city of parents who voted, right? Um, so I just want to give you that number, that we're obviously, we want to sort of bring this point up in order to improve the numbers this coming election. And so the graph before was those parents who voted. Actually, this graph shows the parents who actually participated, meaning who ran for a CEC seat. And you can tell in Queens, right, 0.16% of eligible parents actually ran for a seat, right? And the actual number, I can bring it up here. I thought I'd be able to see it. Yes, the actual number was 289 applications 2 years ago in 2023. Currently, these are the most updated numbers. Queens has 128 applications. So we're still running behind from prior year, right? And prior year, you saw the percentage was 0.16%. So we're still running behind from last year. We would definitely want to bring that number up to make sure that we have as many applicants as possible. To number one, diversify the candidate pool, and for people to get involved that usually do not get involved, or who want to get involved, or didn't understand to get involved. We really want to encourage as many parents as possible to run for a CEC seat. And these campaign materials, you should be seeing these around the city, right? They're on buses, they're on subway kiosks, etc. They're at your school, so you should be seeing these throughout the city right now, as we are sort of in the middle of the election process. And we hired an outreach team, and these are the two people listed here: the citywide community education election outreach lead. Her name is Mary Cruz Badia. Says, did I pronounce? Did I Sestoro? I don't think I.
Sestero.
Sestero. Okay, I thought I misspelled her last name. Anyway, but she's the lead for the outreach, and the one person that is assigned to Queens is Mark Gilman. So if there are any questions as far as outreach, or you need any assistance, you can reach out to us. We will liaise with the outreach coordinators, but we just want to give you that information to let you know that there are people who will be hitting the ground in Queens to make sure that we get the election numbers up to people for run, and most importantly, when people vote, to make sure we get those numbers up as well. Okay. So what can you do as the community board? So a few things. Number one, we just wanted to remind you that the deadline is coming up for those who are interested in running, February 16th. So we are really asking parents to make sure they get their applications in before the 16th. And we also want to remind you of the dates of the candidate forums, which is between February 26th and April 24th, and the election period, which starts April 25th through May 13th. Right. So three main things. Number one, encourage all parents to open a NICSA account as soon as possible. Number two, to encourage as many parents as possible to run for a CEC seat. And most importantly, we want every single parent to vote when it comes to voting. Right. And I see some questions, but this is sort of this is a QR code, and there's an email here. If you have any questions after this presentation or once you peruse this, elections 2025 at schools.nyc.gov. We recommend you to send any of those questions, and we are very responsive to it when we receive questions through that email address. So if this is a time for questions, please, the floor is open. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen as well.
So the one question I see now in the chat is, are President's Council still running candidate forms? And the answer is yes. Now, we are entrusting President's Councils to run the candidate forums because they are another body of parent leaders that are outside of the citywide and community education councils to be able to host these candidate forums and host the candidates. Now, if there is a parent or a caregiver who happens to be serving on the President's Council currently, who is also planning on applying to run for a seat in their community education council, then it is very important. We do that vetting to ensure that that person who is running for a citywide or community education council seat is not on the president's council sort of like planning team. They can continue to serve in the president's council, but they will not be a part of any of the planning process for the candidate forums.
Does anybody have any questions at this point? Okay, Sherry.
I have a number of questions, and some of them are not related to each other, but some of them are. And so I'm just going to ask them. I'm also still relatively new to this world, so some of my questions might be bordering on the line of naivety. I apologize. Can you tell me what D75 is?
So D75 programs are programs for students um, with special needs in schools, and that is different because we also have we have a citywide education council on special education, and that focuses on students that are receiving certain services. But then D75 programs are educational programs for students with special needs within school buildings.
Okay, thank you.
So
And
yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, that's all.
So you mentioned that high school seniors can be appointed to any of these.
Yes.
How does a high school senior get appointed? Is it the same method as a parent who?
No.
Okay.
No. So great question. So a high school senior that wishes to serve on a community education council would apply to the superintendent. Um, they have like they have a process where they interview the candidates. We would vet that they are in fact living. So the way that this works for students is slightly different than the way it works for selecting the parents and the caregivers, because the student is not necessarily serving in the district in which they go to school in. They are serving in the district that they actually live in, if that makes
Oh,
sense. So like I could go to school in Brooklyn or I could go to school in Queens, but I may live in Upper West Side, Manhattan. I am going to apply to the council for the district in which I live in, which is different because I could be a parent who lives, say, in the Bronx, but my child goes to school in Queens, and then I would be serving in the citywide or community education council in which my child's school is being overseen by, if that makes sense.
That
I
makes
hope I made some sense.
no,
it
absolutely.
it is a little complicated, and even we here in this office consult with each other about sort of like the do's and don'ts to make sure that we're sharing accurate and correct information. But for students, it's where they live. For families, it's where for parents and caregivers, it's where their children or their charges go to school at.
Okay. And you said that they apply, so they applied to the CEC or to
Yes, but
the
they would
school
actually
board?
apply to the superintendent. So
Okay.
through the superintendent's district office.
And what qualifications, like what qualities does the superintendent look for to select the
I think that ultimately how a superintendent sort of like evaluates students to serve, they may have them write maybe an essay, or they would go through an interview process to have the student sort of like maybe explain what they believe a community or citywide education council does, and then they make the selection. We just
uh,
support with the vetting to ensure that the student can actually serve on the council, um, based on where they live and where they're applying to.
do do students also serve 2-year terms like the
No,
parents?
no.
Okay.
So, I mean, unless I don't want to say if a high school senior got left back, right? Right, but like it would be for high school seniors, and you're only serving there for the year that you're a high school senior for.
And how many of them apply? Do you have numbers on how many?
So right now, I believe it's 68 seats across all the councils, citywide and community education councils.
No, but how many seniors have actually applied for the position?
We have not, we don't actually capture those numbers, that we only know when they're actually serving. So we don't know how many high school seniors apply per district for, say, I don't know, CEC 25. I don't know how many high school seniors apply to serve, but for CEC 25 there are two seats for students, for high school seniors. So of let's say that there's 25, the district and the superintendent would know. They do their process and they select two to serve on the council.
Okay. And what is being done to, like, if I was a high school senior student, how would I find out that this was an option for me? Where is it
I
available?
think that that information, yes, is available on our school's website. But I
Okay.
think that, based on our feedback, we should also, as someone wrote in the chat, a campaign just for students in CEC should be held. And that's definitely feedback that we can take back to our elections team, and something that can be discussed moving forward is how to more widely publicize the student roles within our CECs. And we've recently gone through a reorganization in our division. So now we are the division of family, community, and student empowerment. And I think that moving forward, that's definitely going to be a highlight for our work, is to making sure that student voice is equally amplified the way we amplify family and caregiver voices.
Um, Off topic, or switching topics actually. Do you know why the turnout for parents participating in this is so low? Is there a lack of promotion or
I think there is many levels to that we may or may not have answers to. I think that we do our best to making sure that we get the word out, that we are publicizing and marketing this in a way that is in alignment with, you know, the resources that we have at hand. We definitely go to meetings, we do presentations, we connect with different people, but we're also very reliant on you as community boards and education sort of like councils within community boards to also get the word out. And we connect with our partners in community-based organizations as well, and borough halls, and different partners and stakeholders that can also help amplify the voice of what CECs do. And that's kind of why we're doing this round of sort of presentations, is so that people can ask us the questions and also learn more on their own. And we also have like a website, and we've shared that in the presentation. You can share that presentation widely with people, right? Like you can share the data on it. It's open. We make it available so that way it is available for everyone to see. It's not like a secret that we're trying to gatekeep. We want to get the word out.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. Does anyone else have any questions?
I do.
Jessica?
I have a question. I'm sorry, my camera is off because these two kids are to my hips. Um, I have a question, and that is, how many um, how many high school students do you actually get to come in and apply for this?
Um, I think that we sort of answered that previously. So, but if you weren't, if for whatever reason you weren't able to hear, we don't actually have a number for how many high school students apply, because they apply through their superintendent. But we know that per
Got it.
council in the community education councils, there are 2 student seats. And in the citywide councils, there is 1 student seat.
Got
So
it.
we know
Sorry.
that there, yeah, that's totally okay. So we know that there's 68 seats available across New York City for high school seniors to be able to apply, to be a part of the community education or citywide education councils. But because that process, we don't actually hold that process, we don't actually know how many applicants per district superintendent offices receive for the community education councils in their district.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, Rebecca. I'm sure
No,
you
that's
did
okay.
answer that. I
No, no, no,
apologize.
that's
But
okay.
thank you.
Yeah,
That's good
no
to know.
problem.
Looks like Jessica has a question.
Sure. So, hi, I'm Jessica Zilo. I'm former President's Counsel for District 28 President, and I used to help run some of the elections. And my question is there a thought that FACE would go back to just having the 3 majority members for PTA/PA's vote, considering the numbers of
Yeah,
parents voting has been so low?
yeah. So, great question. That is a matter of state law. State law changed in 2021, I think, or 2022, I believe, to mandate that rather than the selectors, which is what we used to call them, which were the PA or the PTA president, secretary, treasurer, to be able to vote for CECs, we've now made it open to all families and caregivers of students within New York City public schools to be able to vote. And is the voting numbers really low? They're super low. However, that is a matter of state law, and parent leaders um, were the ones that advocated for those changes. So again, that's not a matter for us as the office to lobby Albany to make those changes in legislation. It's really our job to support and uphold what is mandated in state law. So if there is a change that people see should go back, if the idea is to revert back to the old selector system, that is a matter for parents, concerned parents who want to see that change, to lobby um, their legislators in Albany to make that change.
Heather?
Good evening. Quick question. Kind of piggybacking on Jessica's point. One of the things that I've observed ever since we made the switch to the parents voting and so on, which I am all for democracy and parent participation. But one of the things I'm finding is that the candidates, and not the candidates, but the actual folks who get what I'm seeing on CECs is that they're getting vacancies. Like a person will come get voted in, they'll serve for a couple of months, then something comes up and they're always having to backfill. And then that just gets backfilled by two people coming in, interviewing, and then the council goes and votes. We just had that happen in CEC 28 this week, or this month. So what I'm concerned about is, are we seeing, because we want stability in these committees, and we also want institutional knowledge in these committees. And if we're constantly seeing turnover, you know, has that been anything that, blah, blah, blah. Have you all discussed this before, the turnover and the impact on that at all at FACE?
I think that it's a constant conversation for us, and it's the reason
Mhm.
why we have liaisons to our CECs from this office that are meant to be thought partners with CECs to discuss, like you said, what attrition looks like, and sort of like helping them understand the roles and responsibilities of this work. We also have orientation and ongoing professional development for parent leaders throughout the 2-year term so that people understand um, what roles they're stepping into. And sometimes what you'll see is that people are like, wow, I didn't know what I was signing up for. Maybe I'm going to take a step back because I don't know that I'm committed to the level of understanding that this work requires. And that's a decision that those parent leaders make on their own. Our job as an office is to support all the parent leaders that are serving in these bodies to make sure that they better understand the roles and responsibilities they're fulfilling.
Yeah, and understand community boards have similar challenges as well.
Yeah.
We have folks who sometimes sign up, they don't understand. When we've had folks literally get on the community board and like 2 months later, they're like, see ya,
Yeah.
peace, and they're out.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that, so I think part of it also, I think, could be a product of the times. But I want to thank you guys. You guys do a really great job. And I think coming alongside and trying to provide support. The one thing I asked you guys about this at the meeting, and I don't know if there's been any further discussion around this as far as what the rules are for electioneering and sort of what, if there has been any new guidance established yet as to, endorsements, what constitutes an endorsement, who is considered political, who isn't, what organizations
Yeah.
aren't. Has there been any further guidance on that, or are we still sort of waiting for
So
them to
we
suss it all
have,
out?
yeah, we have an elections team that can
Mhm.
better answer that. I'm going to be
Okay.
very honest with you. That is not my forte. That is not my area of expertise
All
because
right.
frankly, I'm just going to be very honest. My role is to support the people once they are already in the council, right? So when it comes to
Got it.
electioneering and rules, we have an elections team. So reaching out to elections 2025 at schools.nyc.gov, you're able to
Okay.
ask that question. And if there's guidance that they can further offer, I believe that there's like a one pager that gives information about what the rules are around campaigning, which we understand is, sort of like a touchy subject. Like, what can I do? Where can I do it? Can I do it in the school? Can I do it in front of the school? Do I have to be like 40 miles away from the school in order to campaign? Am I able to give flyers? Those questions I really wish that I were the subject matter expert on, but I don't actually have a response for that.
Yeah, and I think some of the concern is the understanding sort of what, like the whole concept of if you simply like somebody saying something good about you, that's considered an endorsement. And to me, that's just a little bit on the like, are you crazy? Because you could accidentally do that and not even think, because we're in such a clicky society and we click, 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 like, right? That you could just do it, not even realize it, but somebody has already
Mhm.
seen it and you go back and you correct it, but now you're kind of crap out of luck because you've
Yeah.
actually broken a rule and it wasn't even like, it was just like a response, right? Okay, I appreciate that. And so we can kind of do some reaching out to them. And I think you said at this point, we're up to about 128 applications so far in Queens, but that's divided between a lot of districts and a lot of, because it's not just the CEC, we're also talking about the high school probably as well, right?
Yep.
Um, do you know what the numbers are for District 28 at this point or no?
Let me go to our database. District 28, which is the community district.
Yeah,
It says right now there are 15 applications.
15.
That's it?
15 applications.
Okay. That's really low. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if, but my guess is that you probably see what we see in community board applications where you get a lot at the beginning,
Yeah.
and there's a lull, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, and people
Yeah.
are like, at
And
the
then
very end.
also we're hearing a lot about like, I'm having trouble linking my children to my Nixa account, which is where
Mm,
connecting now with your parent coordinator is super important, because if you're connecting with a parent coordinator, they can help iron out some of those glitches
mhm.
regarding connecting the Nixa accounts to the children and so on and so forth. And you're able to get ahead of that now before the close of the deadline.
Got it. All right, that's all my questions because I've already met with y'all twice, so I am so hogging all of your time. I'm looking in the chat. Oh, yeah,
Kevin,
Jessica.
it looks like
Jessica,
Kevin has a question.
just as a note though, Jessica is a real, um, she's been a real beast of a parent advocate in our district, and she's really been involved in some of this. So, Jessica, I take what you're saying as very, very, very important. And I'm going to shut up now. Are there any other further questions?
Kevin Lee has a question. Kevin? Heather, you're muted.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to promote him because we can't hear him unless we do. So I'm going to make him a panelist so we can hear him. Okay, I didn't see that. I apologize. Go ahead, Kevin.
He says he can't unmute.
Unmute. Kevin, do you want to write out your question in the chat?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right, great. Yeah, sorry, a little bit late. This might have been answered. Like, what impact can a CEC member make, and what really is the reward for being a CEC member?
Oh my gosh, that is a very loaded question. I don't know if you may want to reframe that. I think the reward is really to help families and see a change in your own school district and be a person that is able to sort of voice the concerns of other families within your school communities, right? And your district, I think, is the real reward. Um, I'm not sure if that was sort of like the line of questioning, or if there was in fact like a question of compensation. So I don't want to assume. Maybe you might want to clarify or reframe the question.
No, I assume there's no compensation, right? That it's purely volunteer,
Yeah.
that you're in it to make a difference if you can.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
think also like you're holding accountable a system for making sure that we are doing right by our students, right? And the way in which that system is able to be held accountable is directly through the citywide and community education councils, right? Like the citywide and community education councils function as autonomous bodies that really are analyzing what the district and the larger agency are doing for students um, that it serves, and making sure that we are being good stewards of taxpayer dollars to actually live up to the mission of educating students and to being academically and socially, emotionally engaged and successful.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it. I as a parent, like I have young kids, and I'm always curious. So, like, we get the phone calls that run for the CEC, and sometimes we follow it. And you guys were talking about low, I guess application rates or like involvement. And so I'm just always not meant to be a loaded question. It's meant to be like, what's really in it for the parents, like, to put in that time and
Yeah.
effort, and
Yeah.
it is a lot of time.
And I think you also are able, I think, yes, it is a lot of time, it is a lot of effort. I think it's a lot of time and a lot of effort to also serve in a community board, right? I think that it's the opportunity to also learn about what's actually happening within your district, having conversations with the people, the actual school administrators and the district administrators that also have a huge hand and a role in being the directors of that work, right? Like, what is the curriculum that's being taught around literature, or the curriculum around math proficiency that's being taught in our elementary schools or in our high schools? Like, why did you choose this curriculum over that curriculum? How are you measuring that? Asking those questions, learning about those intricacies actually helps demystify what the system is all about. We're very large, but it shouldn't have to be a secret. Like, these things should be understood by as many people as are being served by the system.
Does anyone else have any questions? Going once, going twice.
Sorry, can I say one thing? Just because
Sure.
I've done this and I just know how hard this is. So I really appreciate FACE and all of its effort to expand the number of parents that would like to sit on the CEC. It is hard, thankless work. We did this during COVID, which was also very interesting to have people sort of join the CEC. Somebody asked why you want to join the CEC. It's really to try and help make a difference within the school and the education system. And so, again, thank you for taking your time to meet with us. And as a parent leader, and Heather's right, I've done this for a long time, I just really appreciate your efforts to lead us through this next cycle of CEC elections.
And we appreciate that. And I also, like, I'm not the person. I appreciate your kind words. That actually is very uplifting after a very long day. So thank you so much. Also, thank you for your service, all of the people on this call, but also Jessica, because your name does sound familiar to me. So I feel like I've seen you at CPAC meetings.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I'm wrong, but yes. Okay, cool. So
I said at CPAC, I don't know, I've had more roles than I care to admit. I'm sort of just a professional troublemaker in the background. I do not want to join the CEC, but I'm always happy to show up and make my qualms known about
but I
issues that
also
I'm
think
facing.
that those qualms, while I where I sit and where I serve am unable to resolve those qualms, I always tell I come from like a former organizing background, and so I think that if these are changes that just are not realistic within the context of parent leadership, I think that going to your legislators and discussing changes to state education law would be supportive and helpful to if you feel that that is your position, please. I encourage you all to connect with your state legislators about ways in which you can make that work for you.
And I just want to add to that. Actually, I want to ask a question to the community board. Last week, I sent like a slew of information out to all the community boards across the city. I just want to make sure you received that information.
Yes, we have it.
Okay.
Thank you
Okay.
very
Good.
much.
Just want to make sure. Excellent. Thank you.
If I find out that my assessment is wrong, I will definitely reach back out.
Absolutely. You know where to find me.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
One very last question. This is Kevin Lee. Just piggybacking on what Heather was saying. Like, so this is a volunteer role. Like, I know that the topic of election was tabled, but technically, if you're running to be a CEC member, you're running to volunteer, and this is purely like it excludes like any campaign funding, super PACs, all of that. I just want to like hear a clear yes or no
Yeah.
on that.
So as I had shared earlier, I am not the expert on like sort of like the campaign rules in terms of like how you're allowed to campaign or if you're allowed to invest money into a campaign and how much is that limit if you're allowed to invest money into a campaign. All those things are not my area of expertise, but you can write your question to our elections team, elections 2025 at schools.nyc.gov, and there you can pose your question to the people who do have some of that knowledge regarding the campaign rules.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Unless anyone else has any further
As
questions.
far as sharing this PowerPoint, I received emails from Christine Nolan. Should I just respond to her with and attach the PowerPoint?
Yes, that would be great. She's our
Okay.
district manager.
Will do.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Will do.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Serge.
You're very
We
welcome.
really appreciate you coming to talk to us and answering all of our questions.
No problem.
Thank you. We appreciate the chance and the platform you've given us to share this information, and we hope that you're able to share that back out with your community and drum up some support for our CECs, especially the ones in your local community. So we appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
Get home before it snows.
We'll try.
We'll try.
Thank you so much.
Good night,
Okay.
everybody.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Sherry, do you have anything else for us tonight?
No, that was the focus.
Okay.
Does anyone else want to bring up anything in particular or?
No,
Just
go
really
ahead.
quickly on this particular topic, just because I'm still a parent leader, I've never seen just 15 people, even as much as we don't like it. I've seen at least multiple candidates for certain schools.
Yep.
So with over 38 schools in the district, let's say, because that's what it encompasses, that's less than one parent per school that's willing to come out and vote. I also don't think that parent coordinators, etc., are still sharing the about running for a seat. So that's just, I have
Right.
not heard anything from my school, right,
Okay.
about running for a seat. And so I don't know if that's prolific throughout the district.
Then people need to be I would, Jessica, my advice would be to reach out to Quentin, who's the new president of the
Yes.
CEC.
I was
And
actually going to email Sonia too, and maybe
yeah,
pass through because he's the FLC for Mel's because we fall under a different superintendent.
right. But yeah, that's a problem because I agree. When she said 15, I was stunned
That seems awfully
Be-
low.
We
because
had like 50
typically,
people from one school.
yeah. And the problem is what I think too that they said that she was mistaken is there is some form of compensation if you need it for childcare, for
Correct.
certain, or like the CEC meeting.
Correct.
It's very weird what you get compensated for and don't. Like if you're an SLT parent, you get compensated for that. It's a very small stipend, but you get a stipend. Yet you don't on community board. You only get it on CEC if you need childcare. So if you've got hubby at home that's going to pay his dues by watching the kids, you're not going to get that stipend. So, but yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm concerned about that 15.
Well, because it's probably on one side of the district and not on the other.
Yeah, I'll try to do better at pushing it out on the socials, and maybe putting it into some groups on Facebook. I'll try to do that at least once a week to kind of push it around on a Monday through Thursday. I find the stuff you put on socials on Friday kind of like
So
people are already on Saturday in their heads.
so
I
their
just-
their timing for this too as a parent is terrible, given that next week is also a vacation and a break. Like
Yeah.
their timing of this is just they've had this in the past with the DOE, right? The timing of when they do things is sometimes just off kilter. So I
Yeah.
don't know that necessarily people are thinking about CEC elections at the moment because most people are thinking about vacation.
Yeah. Or the world being a dumpster fire.
So that too. But I can try and help spread the word. Tomorrow I'll send an email to Sonia and Ed and just find out how we can help spread the word a little bit more. Again, just as a legacy parent leader within this crazy school district that we have, I'm really upset to hear that number. And hopefully as a community board and as the education committee, we can help spread the word.
Same.
Agreed.
Oh,